Hi! We're finally here, girls. It's the last part of the Irish crochet lace cut. If you have not been following, this is part 4 of a journey that was making a Irish crochet lace coat, heavily inspired by Lucy Lace. So if you crochet or craft and you're on the internet, I'm sure you saw Lucy Lace's viral coat that she posted in the beginning of the year.
1, 2, 3, 4.
When she posted it, I was obsessed, and I wasn't the only one because a lot of people were like, oh my god, what is this? And I decided to make one, and I recorded my journey. I posted 3 parts so far, and this is the final part, and I will be revealing the coat that I made. It took me 1 month with filming, and I did use some full days to make it, but not all days were full days. If you have not been following along, I will tell you what I did so far, but you should watch all of the videos, okay? By the way, if you really like the actual coat, Lucy Lace is a brand and they sell it and they ship worldwide. They are a Ukrainian mother and daughter duo and they live in Poland. So if you have the means, you should totally get one. When I decided that I wanted to make the coat, I actually had to learn what it was. I didn't really know what the technique was. I had never done it. So this was my first time ever trying something like this. The technique that is used in the original coat is Irish lace crochet. The traditional technique, it's done with like a very tiny needle, very thin yarn, but this one is obviously done in a larger scale with thicker yarn, thicker hook. An Irish lace crochet is basically motifs, so any shape that you want to make into a motif you can. A lot of shapes, motifs, have like a visible three-dimensionality to it, like a part that is raised, that is the padding, and then there's the grounding, the stitches that like fill the spaces in between the motifs. So how you join them. So in part 1, I learned about the technique. I learned how to do it myself with a lot of tutorials. In part 2, I made a pattern. So you need a pattern, a shape that you're going to be placing your motifs into. I chose to do a cropped jacket / coat with a hood. So I made the pattern for that. And then in the part 3, I did a bunch of motifs. I decided which motifs I was going to do, which flowers, the circles, all of the things. The last thing that we did in part 3 was making a bunch of cord. I'm using the cord to trace my pattern. And now we're going to place everything the way that we want to and join everything. So this is what we're about to do. I will now start to position all of the motifs in the pattern. This is my huge mat and it's a little thicker than a normal safety pin. Like a safety pin goes through it just fine and it doesn't reach the other end. You don't need this mat. You're already buying so many supplies like the yarn, the time that you're spending. Maybe you don't want to have a gigantic mat in your house just like there. You can cut your pattern on muslin or just like a scrap fabric that you have. You position the motifs however you want them. Baste stitch with large stitches them in place and then get a thick cushion and use that. And I even think that is more comfortable to work with. This kind of gigantic mat is not really comfortable. Like I have it on the table and I'm working on top of it, so I have to lay myself on top of the table to work on it when I'm doing the filling stitches, and that's not good for my back. I will be doing it on the mat because I have the mat. I bought it for this specific kind of use. I can only fit like 4 out of 7 pattern pieces in this one, so I'll do that and I'll have the rest on the paper just so that I can see everything, take a nice photo, and then work one by one. So for reference, my board is 2.5 centimeters thick. I was filming my whole process, so I had to glue my phone, that is my camera, in the ceiling. And also because of that, I have like an extra phone and I filmed a lot of the parts close up right now from now on in the other phone. When I filmed this, I didn't actually know how to change the settings in the phone, so the footage looks a bit different from now on. There's like 2 different types of footage and I apologize for that. I had to put my table so much forward because of these pendants. Don't do this at home. videography is my passion. It will hurt, but you have to do it. You get over it. You get over it. It hurts. It hurts. It hurts, but it's fine. I'll just use a piece of random string to mark the parts that I won't be ending with the cord. Just the motifs. I don't have enough cord, so I'll have to make more cord. Also, this here, it's not it. I need to do this collar part of the back with the cord because it is the part that is joining the hood. The blue thread sentiment is the same. It's just that I made it in the wrong place. Something else, very, very important. If you're using a mat, don't take your pins out with your nails. Take it from someone who broke 2 nails. Get some pliers. Okay, so a few things about the actual construction of the coat right now that we're doing. This part, from now on, there's no actual right or wrong. Who am I to say? This is my first ever coat. I just learned the technique. But a few things that I chose to do and I think worked out really well. For the motifs, I didn't really want 2 big motifs too close to each other. I wanted to space them out. So basically the 6 petal flowers and the monsteras, I wanted them to be spaced out. Also, I did want the look of the filling, the stitching filling technique. I wanted that to be seen, so I wanted some blank spaces. And I think this is the important part. I had to make sure that the tracing, the pattern, was very well done. I had to have motifs and cords fully tracing the whole pattern. For the hems and in the hood, I had to make sure that there was no space in between the motifs in the outline of the pattern. And I thought that would be best for the shape so that the actual shape of the pattern was very well established and there was a structure to the coat. I wanted to be sure that there would be a good place for me to stitch them together and there would be a sturdy seam that would be like a place for it to hold itself and not fall apart. That's how I thought of it. So for example, you can see in the back was pretty much all traced except for the bottom. So in the hem, I placed the motifs very close together. They're very tightly packed. There's no space in between them. And on top, so in the rest of the back, I spaced them out in a pretty way, but with space in between the motifs. They weren't necessarily glued together, but the bottom was. And you can see that very well as well in the hood. See, for the hood, I didn't want to have the cord in the middle here where the 2 pattern pieces join. So I had to make sure that that part was very well traced. But this is something also you have to take into consideration the pieces that are going to go with each other. So for example, my 2 hoods, I was working on them in different sides of the table, but they were going to be together in the design. I put 1 monstera in one side of the hood, so I made sure that in the other hood pattern I didn't have any big leaves close to where I was going to have the monstera, so it wasn't going to have like 2 big pieces right beside each other. Also, I didn't really feel the need to mirror anything, so I did different designs for all of the pattern pieces, but some parts I wanted to be similar. So for example, the hems on the sleeve, I made them exactly the same. I used 3 6-leaf flowers for each of the hems. And for the front, the lapels of the front panels, I did them similar, not exactly the same, but similar. So I did circles in both the lapels, so they looked similar, as well as the hood. The part that was going to be framing my face, I did the small shamrocks in all of it, and the inside I did different from each other. So yeah, try to think about the final piece when you are positioning your motifs in this individual pattern pieces. I'm surprisingly upbeat for someone who's going to spend a few more hours crocheting. Let's give a second of silence for the fallen ones, the ones that won't make it. The third monstera, I just didn't do a good job with this one. The 5-leaf flower, and then there's this thing, and then these things. This was the first leaf that I tried to invent. This was the leaf that I tried to do with a padding on the middle, and the padding just started coming undone. I still need to do a few more motifs to be happy. I could rearrange them a little bit and just be happy with a little bit of negative space. I don't want that. This back one was the first one that I did. I think this is perfect. We will have a few spaces here, here, here with the filling stitch, but it's not too much. I need roughly 50 to 60 centimeters worth of cord. A few more circles, the small ones. Maybe I'll do a couple more leaves for the sleeve. We'll eventually finish it. I will see you in a few hours.
The following day.
Hi, ladies and gentlemen. It's finally the last day. Realistically, this is not gonna be finished today, but hopefully tomorrow. Fingers crossed. Now what's left to do is to glue them together with hot glue. Yeah, hot glue. Basically, all of the motifs and like cord that are touching, I'm going to sew them. Everything that doesn't have a motif on it, I will be using a filling stitch. Oh, about the filling / grounding, the technique that you use to fill up the whole shape. In the first video, I learned the more traditional filling technique, which is the one with the chain stitches. And that didn't really look pretty, in my opinion, with the thick yarn. Obviously, Irish lace crochet is traditionally done with a very thin hook, very thin yarn, and it looks pretty for that. But for the thicker yarn, thicker hook, I just didn't like how bulky it felt. So I tried the technique that I learned when I did Romanian point lace. It's another type of crochet adjacent lace making technique, and it's basically just sewing. It's a sewing, but like making loops and then going back on the loops with other loops. I have more close-ups in a few minutes, but I did test out with my tests, and I decided that that was what I was going to do. Last night I did paint my nails after I finished my cord, and this will be marking the 4th nail color in this one video, which does mean that I've been doing this for 4 weeks. I don't think it's worth the camera on the ceiling right now. I'll literally just be placing them exactly how they are. About the joining, I decided to stitch all of the motifs that were touching together with a smaller, thinner, very sturdy yarn. I just used the cotton yarn that's well treated and resistant, and the same color. I thought it would be wise to do it with the small thread so that I could do a few knots and it not feel bulky. It was easier, it didn't waste yarn. I just thought it was a good practice to everything that was touching, all the motifs that were touching, I stitched them together with another cord to make sure also it had the structure and it wasn't just held together by the filling stitches. I don't know if that's how you should do it. That's how I did it. Okay, so for this one, there are not actually that many that are touching. When I was placing everything, the back was the easiest because it's just really big. I'll be mainly joining the bottom here. Also, these bits of the actual pattern, the cord, where they touch, the cord touches itself. I'm going to do a few stitches here, here. now I'm about to spend a few days making the grounding for all of the pattern pieces. I made sure everything was well stitched, well placed together, and then it's just stitching away. Oh, by the way, I had all of my motifs facing up. I was looking to the right sides of the motifs when I was doing my filling. So the grounding that I did was with a needle and the yarn. I had like a big-ish piece of yarn attached to the needle. I wove in, did a couple of knots, and started doing the filling stitch. It's kind of hard to explain the filling stitch. I did two. Did this one that is like the crisscross in narrow parts. I went with the needle from one side to the other and then back a stitch, doing a loop, and then to the other side, and then back and then to the other side, doing this like crisscrossing motion. And the other one that I did in most parts of the jacket was this looping, where you basically go with the yarn, create a loop, and then you use the loop to go to the other side and make new loops. I don't know how to explain this with words. I hope the visuals are kind of showing you how I'm doing it. Also, be careful to not go on a spiral, so you will have like rounded squared shapes that you have to fill in with the grounding, and it's very tempting to just go around all of the motifs, keep going around, because you can do that. But if you do that, you will be left with a piece of thread of yarn in the middle of a clear space, and there's nowhere to hide your tail yarn and to do the knots. So you'll be left with like a big knot in the middle of a clean area. So try to be very mindful to not go around in a spiral with the grounding, but go around and then back and then back and then back and then back, so that you have a motif to do the knot and hide your tail yarn in.
Day 4.
Good morning. Because I know there must be a little bit of overlap. I would like to ask for any of my tech bros or tech sisses how damaging it is for the battery on my iPhone 11 Pro Max that I have it charged and with a time lapse going on for hours on end. I finally finished 4 out of 7 panels. Each panel takes me anywhere from 3 to 5 hours. The front one took me like 2.5, 3 hours. And then the sleeve took me like 5 hours minimum. I've been doing this for like 4 days-ish. I just want to finish it. It's so frustrating when it's like this, that you can literally see it done. It takes time. Oh, the one thing that I did, if you're doing a coat like mine, this front panel on jackets and coats, this kind of flops outwards like this, right? So when I did the front panel and when I'm going to do the next one, all of the circles that go right here on the lapel, I positioned them wrong sides up. So like I'm working generally on the right side, and on the front panel, on the lapel, I did them facing back. It hooks the shirt. I cannot wait to do the video like Lucy Lace does it, when she goes like this on the mannequin. I will be taking these out and I will be working now on the second sleeve. I'm tired of this already. Like I know it's beautiful, it looks amazing. Congratulations, I have a lot of patience, yada yada yada. I just want it to be done. I just want it to be done. My patience really is running out. I still have a lot to do. Oh, you might be able to see here, the pattern did shrink a little bit after unpinning it from the mat. So that's something to consider if you're doing something tight fitting. It does shrink a little bit. It is kind of stretchy, but not too much. And I don't think you want to be stretching it. If I was to do another one, I would maybe try to be more mindful and not stretch the yarn when I'm doing the filling, the grounding. But in general, it did shrink just a little bit, not too much.
Tomorrow.
Good morning, everyone. Today, it's the day that we're finishing it. I can sense it, I can feel it, I can see it. What do I have to do today? I have to stitch this second front panel and then I have to join them. And you're like, oh, that's sweet, that's pretty, that's a lot of work still, but you'll finish it today. I'm like, yeah, I will. But there's this thing. I have been obsessed with the idea of stop motion recreation of the jacket. And since I'll never do this again, I need to do the stop motion that I really want to do with this one. I'll actually have to draw the front panel on my mat with a pink pen, and I'll actually be crocheting a couple of flowers for the stop motion. And then I will be positioning all of these motifs in the panel. For every movement that I do, I have the camera here and I'll do like one stitch and then I'll space out and I'll get out of the camera. Do one stitch, get out of the camera. So it will take me a little longer probably than all of the other ones. This is the plan for today. My one fear is that it's out of focus because I cannot see what's being filmed. If it's out of focus, I'm gonna cry. Okay, so I did the part of stop motion, and The one thing that is so funny is like, look at this shamrock. It's the same as these two, but it's quite bigger because this is the one that I did for the stop motion. So I did it stitch by stitch, so like stitch pause, stitch pause, stitch pause, stitch pause, stitch pause. And look at like how much bigger it is than these ones, and that's just tension. Wild. It took me 2 hours to just do this. So like 2 hours to do this shamrock and position everything. And then now I'm going to do the stitching. Hopefully it would take me no longer than an hour. And then I'll have to do the filling. And for the filling, I actually want to film the stop motion. So I took 2 hours normally. If I have to do stitch pause, stitch pause, stitch pause for the filling, I don't know if that was such a good idea, but I'm on it. I'm on the middle. I'm not stopping. I'm not stopping. And then I have to do the stitching them together, but the stitching them together is easier. I'm just going to film joining the pieces, but not actually stitching because it's pointless. So that's going to take a little less time, and I'm going to be done. I'm going to be done today. I did not finish it that day. I did not. It took me a long time to do the filling with the stop motion. I did the filling for that whole panel that day, and I was done with all of the panels. And then the next morning, I started by filming a few TikToks with all of my panels done.
The next day.
Hi, good morning. You need to film a TikTok. You know that I could use somebody. Someone like you. Now I'll actually join the pieces via stop motion. Okay, so the very last thing to do is to assemble everything, build it into a coat. The way that I like to assemble tops in general is first the shoulders, so the back panel with the front panel, and then the sleeves in the sleeve hole, and then do the big seam that goes from beginning of the sleeve all the way to the side seam and the bottom of the coat jacket. And then I did hoods together and then hood to the coat. All of my seams were cord with cord. I do have a tutorial on the Romanian point lace, by the way. I did not use the like handle thing of the Romanian point lace cord to join it because I thought that would be a little bit of a fragile seam. I had the cords together and I went inside the cord because it's a very thick cord. I went inside the cord with my needle and thread and then back the other side, and then I did a back seam. Most of it I did like go forwards, go backwards, go forwards, go backwards. I don't know manual hand sewing terms, so that was what I did. And every so often I did a little knot. By the way, I did mention it in part 2. I made my sleeve panel a little bit too big because it's common practice to make it bigger so that you can ruffle it a little bit so it falls from the shoulder down. But I would not do that again if I was to do it again, which I won't. I don't know how to explain that. I just basically kind of ruffled my sleeve into the sleeve hole pattern. I pinned the sleeve to the sleeve hole from the outside in, so the bigger part was just the rounded bit of the sleeve. And whenever I was stitching that, I stitched it closer together, so I would get a bit of the sleeve and I pull it back to the sleeve hole so that it fit. I kind of ruffled it, but just like very manually. How it looks without the hood. It's kind of classy without the hood. I really want the hood. I just feel like the hood is a good idea. So I'm gonna do the hood. But like, look at it. Wow. I'm gonna show it to my mom. done. Ah! Let me show it to you. Oh wait, no. First, check out my stop motion because it took me very long to make.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Yeah, what did you think of it? Watch it again because it took me very long. Anyway, this is the couch. Let's do a cute little montage. Do we like it? I honestly love it. So as you guys know, it has been a while since I made it. I finished it in the end of March and it's now the end of August. I did take this on a trip. I went to Europe, so like London, Paris, and Barcelona, and I took it with me and I took only a carry-on. I was taking this jacket coat with me, like holding it in my hands in the airport and like in a bunch of places. So there are a few stitches that have gotten loose. I think it's mostly like the woven in tail has like kind of come out like this, for example. So I have to weave this in better, especially on the sleeves. There's that little bit of like fuzz, you know, that like fuzz from it has been used. It is more of a like occasion jacket. Feels great on my body. This is like a bamboo cotton acrylic blend, so it feels so soft. I like it against my body. It just so happened that I wore it with a long sleeve a lot. And also I do like the long sleeve because the yarn that I chose is quite close to my shade skin color. Wearing a colorful long sleeve underneath is good for it to be more visible, like the stitches and the mesh. It probably should be a little obvious. I don't know why I didn't think of that because I chose such a light color that's close to my skin color, if I just wear it on its own, the intricate detail of it is not as visible. If we see Lucy Lace's designs, most of them are like blue and green and very pretty standout colors. This is a project that's very like beautiful, so that you want people to see the details. So that's something that can be thought about that I didn't really think about. But yeah, my favorite outfit that I did was I wore it with a orange long sleeve and this skirt, and I did take this to Europe and I took a lot other DIYs of mine, so clothing that I made throughout the years, and I filmed like a lookbook / like everything that I wore. I traveled with a carry-on and I stayed at like hostels. I think it's a little interesting, so I will be posting a photo with like all of the looks of that trip next, and after that we'll start new projects. So this is the end of my 4-part series that took me a month to film and a long time to edit. I feel kind of sad that this project is over. I feel like a lot of you will leave me and not come back, which is okay. Like if you're just watching this for this project, I totally understand. But if you want to stick around, I have so many projects that I want to do, that I'm planning to do. And like, look at this yarn that I just bought for a project that I want to start next. How fun. Consider subscribing and sticking around. Maybe you like my next projects and feel inspired by those as well. Or just, have some company while you make your projects, your crafts. I would love it if you stick around, subscribe to the channel, consider liking the video, and comment down below what you think of the final result. Did you like it? Is it not your cup of tea? Would you have done it in another color? Let me know if you're doing one. I hope it was helpful. As I said in the very first video, this is a very free-form project. I have some comments on my videos like, this is not useful because I just talk a lot. But it is a pretty simple project when it comes to like the actual making. There is no pattern. You have to make your motifs and place them on a pattern and just stitch them together. This is pretty much it. It just so happened that it takes a long time and you have to have a pattern for like a jacket or a coat or a dress, whatever you want to make. But there's not an actual step-by-step. This is how many stitches you do, like a normal crochet pattern. But I feel like I tried really hard to like explain the whole process. I hope you liked the videos. Stay tuned. In the end of the week, I will be posting the lookbook from the Europe trip. Down below, I have a document with the tutorials that I used. I posted 3 tutorials of my own: the leaf, the small shamrock, and the cord, the Romanian point lace cord. If you're going to make your own, I hope this was at least a little bit helpful. I'm sorry if it wasn't too helpful. But yeah, I hope you have a nice week. Happy crafting. Best of luck in all of your projects. And yeah, I will see you very, very soon. Bye bye.